Good afternoon, Honorable VC ma'am. I would like to ask for permission that if you allow, can we begin?
Yes, please. Please do.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With the permission of Honorable Vice Chancellor, ma'am, I wish a very good afternoon, everyone. This is going to be a very special day for all of us, and we must start this beautiful journey by remembering a very special personality, and he's none other than Dr. Sir Hari Singh Gaur, founder Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya, Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. We believe that his blessings are always with us and hope that this webinar will also be very much successful by his blessings. Let me tell you that the title of the webinar is Luminescence and its Future. It is organized by Department of Physics, School of Mathematical and Physical Sciences, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya Sagar MP. On behalf of the Department of Physics, I, Sherry Nasir, extend a hearty welcome to Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am, Reverend Dean, School of Mathematical and Physical Sciences, Sir, Reverend HOD Physics, sir, our eminent expert of the day, all esteemed guests, and each and every one of you who is giving glory to this event. It is our tradition that we begin the event by the name of Almighty. So, we are starting this webinar with this Saraswati Vandana. And now, with great respect, I would like to invite Professor Ashish Verma sir, Dean School of Mathematical and Physical Sciences and convener of the event for his inaugural speech. Over to Professor Ashish Verma sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya Sagar, Professor Janak Dulari Ahi ma'am. Today's guest speaker, Professor Namita Brahme, Professor of Physics in School of Studies in Physics and Astrophysics, Pandit Ravi Shankar University, Raipur. Head of the Department of Physics, Professor Ranveer Kumar. All the distinguished teachers of the universities and colleges, research scholars and students. First of all, I would like to thank each of you for joining this webinar. I am proud to say that our physics department is organizing these kinds of webinar constantly. This webinar is aimed to enlighten the mind of young research scholars and students. Moreover, I bid my warm welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Janak Dulari Ahi Madam. I am really grateful for her constant encouragement and support for organizing this webinar to promote the scientific activities and environment in the university. My warm welcome to Professor Namita Brahme, who is alumni of our department for all of you, she complete his PhD degree in 1994 from this department. I am thankful to her for agreeing to give a lecture for this webinar in a very short notice. Thank you, Namita, for this. Furthermore, I would like to extend my gratitude to Professor Ranveer Kumar, head of the department, in all respect of supporting such endeavors and always keep to morale the department very high. My warm regards to my webinar team, Professor Nilesh Jain, who is now in Sagar Institute of Technology, Bhopal, Sherry Siddiqui, Praveen Letoria, and Swati Kurmi, all are my research scholars for their support. As we all know that luminescence was first introduced by Ethard Weidmann in 1888. Since then, tremendous work is carried out and going on in this field in the form of fluorescence and the phosphorescence, whether it is photoluminescence, electroluminescence, thermoluminescence, bioluminescence, chemiluminescence, cathodoluminescence, or the mechanoluminescence. So a lot of work is going on and a lot of work is coming to be researched for this. So I am sure that today you all will be benefited by the talk, which is going to be delivered by Professor Namita Brahme. Once again, thank you to all. And now over to Sherry.
Much, sir, for your significant words. And now we are moving ahead, and it's our proud privilege that our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya Sagar MP, Professor Janak Dulari Ahi ma'am is with us. We all are waiting for her precious words. I humbly request Honorable Vice Chancellor ma'am to please shower our blessings on all of us. Over to ma'am.
मैडम अनम्यूट कर लीजिएगा मैडम अनम्यूट कर लीजिए
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. A very good afternoon to all of you. I extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Professor Namita Brahme, Department of Physics, School of Studies in Physics and Astrophysics, Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, for accepting our invitation and being present with us on this online mode. We welcome you, ma'am, to your alma mater. Professor Ashish Verma, Dean School of Mathematical and Physical Sciences, and also the convener of the webinar, Professor Ranveer Kumar, Head Department of Physics, faculty members, research scholars, participants, dear students, and all those who have joined us on this virtual platform, I welcome you all in this webinar on luminescence and its future. The phenomenon of luminance has fascinated mankind since the prehistoric times, and we can observe that luminance phenomenon in nature, like the light from the aurora borealis, which is a pattern of differential colored lights that are sometimes seen in the night sky in most northern parts of the world, then in glowworms, fireflies, and in certain sea bacteria and deep sea animals. This phenomenon has been used in various fields by different scientists all over the world, such as archaeologists, geologists, chemists, physicists, biomedical engineers, and also for various industrial applications such as quality control, research, and development. As we all know that light is a form of electromagnetic energy, and to create light, another form of energy must be supplied. So there are two common ways of this to occur, that is incandescence and luminescence. Incandescence is the light from heat energy. It glows red hot or white hot. The sun and the stars glow by incandescence, while luminescence is cold light, light from other sources of energy, which can take place at normal and lower temperatures. In luminescence, some energy source kicks an electron of an atom out of its ground state into an excited state. Then the electron gives back the energy in the form of light in the visible region so that it can fall back to its ground state. It was after 1900, the modern period luminescence experimentations were started on the aspirations of promising quantum mechanics approaches. Luminescence is a process having a wide range of applications in everyday life. Starting from the conventional fluorescent lighting, they extend to digital radiography in the field of magnetic resonance imaging, that is MRI, electronic portal imaging device, light emitting diodes, solid state lasers, luminescent solar concentrators, and many other electrical and electronic equipments employ luminescent materials. Recently, electroluminescent display that shows promise for making flexible electroluminescent flat panel display technology that is emerging worldwide, and it also provides an excellent platform for a foundation for a hang-on on the wall TV. Thus, luminescence devices in day-to-day life of the urban civilization have become so essential that life cannot be imagined without these, which is due to the usage of various types of lamps, TVs, mobile displays, LED lamps, LED TVs, signal displays, etc. So the most important worldwide challenges amongst the major noteworthy progresses are in diverse fields of biochemistry, cell and molecular biology, genetics, bioinformatics, microbiology, biometrics, forensics, flow cytometry, and medical diagnostics, and also the addition of nanotechnology. Now we have seen that luminescence is not only well conceived, but a pioneer across the globe with innovative scientific developments. However, facts also demonstrate that it has been and will prolong to be of vital importance towards groundbreaking research against novel applications for the societal cause. So dear participants, you have a wide range to choose from. Thus, studies on this inimitable luminescence technology surroundings might provide an insight about atoms, molecules, and which will enhance, that may perhaps turn out to be the future harbingers of green energy in the coming years. I'm sure the deliberations given by our esteemed expert will enhance the academic excellence of our participants in this very relevant and upcoming field. Finally, I congratulate the convener of the webinar, Professor Ashish Verma, and his entire team, and wish you all the very best. But before I leave, I would like to just inform our guest expert about that our university, under the flagship of the Smart City project, they have offered us to build a planetarium in the university. And for that, we have constituted a committee, and Professor Ashish Verma is the chairman of that committee. So I'm sure for that, we'll need very, very inputs from you. And I request Professor Ashish Verma to contact Madam from time to time and take all the help and whatever you can so that we can build a really nice science planetarium in our campus. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are honored. Thank you, sir. Now, this is the time for formal introduction of our eminent speaker of the day, Professor Namita Brahme, ma'am. I know there is much to say, but time is a bar. So, for few words about ma'am, I would humbly request Mr. Praveen Kumar Litoria.
Good afternoon to all of my respected teachers, respected BC ma'am, and respected HOD sir, and respected Professor Namita ma'am. I, Praveen Kumar Litoria from Department of Physics, Dr. Harsing Gaur, Sagar University. Welcome Professor Namita ma'am. I welcome Professor Namita madam for the invited talk on luminescence and its future. Professor Namita ma'am has completed her graduation and post-graduation from Dr. Harsing Gaur, Sagar University, and she has completed her MPhil and PhD from Guru Ghasidas Central University, Bilaspur. She has joined Higher Education Department, Bhopal, as an assistant professor in 1996. And then moved to Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, as an associate professor in 2004. Then from 2010 to till date, she is working as a full professor. She has served on many administrative posts during her service. As a head of department, Government Arts and Commerce and Science College, Kota, Bilaspur, from 1996 to 2004. Head of Department of Physics, Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh, from July 2016 to June 2019. And coordinator at a Center of Nanoscience and Technology, Pandit Ravi Shankar University, Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh, and many administrative posts during her service. She has awarded by Young Scientist Award 2004 by CG Coast, Raipur. She is a lifetime member of Luminescence Society of India, and she is a lifetime member of International Academy of Physical Sciences, Allahabad. Under the supervision of Professor Brahme, 14 students had completed their PhD, and in present 8 students are working under her guidance. She has published more than 100 research papers in international journals and many research papers in national journals. She has completed 2 big projects on rare earth doped phosphor. It is in field of luminescence. We are very fortunate, Doctor, that Professor Brahme has accepted our invitation for an invited talk on luminescence and its future. So we are very pleased to welcome Professor Namita ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. Respected Vice Chancellor, Madam, Professor Ashish Verma, Professor Ranveer Kumar, and all the students. I am Dr. Namita Brahme from Ravi Shankar Shukla University. And first, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me as guest speaker. And it's really a proud privilege for me because I am alumni of this department. So today, जैसा कि मैडम ने मुझे कहा, मैं आपकी आभारी हूँ मैडम। मैं जरूर इस काम में आपको सहयोग प्रदान करूंगी आशीष वर्मा सर के गाइडेंस में। एंड थैंक्स मुझे इसके योग्य समझने के लिए।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। थैंक यू नमिता।
ओके, मैं आप स्लाइड शेयर कर रही हूँ सर। जी,
हाँ नमिता, विजुअल है सब।
ओके,
आप शुरू कर।
जी, okay. So today I am going to talk about luminescence and its future. But first, I would like
Namita.
to hear that. आवाज आ रही है सर? हेलो, My voice is clear, sir?
हाँ बिल्कुल अच्छी आ रही है, बोलिए आप.
Okay, okay. First thing I would like to clear that I am not going to discuss the experimental results of our research work. I will use them just for an explanation, because today I will be more focusing on the concept of the topic that are related to the luminescence. As you know that if you see in dark, a small piece of burning coal and firefly both looks similar, but you know that it is difficult to touch a burning piece of coal, whereas you can put a flashing firefly on your palm. It means that there are two types of light sources. One is hot light source and second one is the cold light source. Now it is well established that the light from the material is generated by two distinct principal mechanisms. These are the contents of my talk, and the two, as we know that the light from the material is generated by two distinct principal mechanisms. One is called incandescence and second one is called luminescence. So incandescence is the radiation emitted by matter as a consequence of thermal agitation of the constituent atoms, and it is spread over a wide wavelength range. To obtain incandescence, energy is added to a piece of a suitable material either by passing an electric current or simply by heating it. The sun, hot iron, burning piece of coal, tungsten filaments are example of incandescence. Contrary to incandescence, we can say this luminescence is a very simple process whereby radiation in a narrow band is emitted as a result of change in energy state, usually of electron, when a substance is excited by an external source of energy that does not significantly change the temperature of the sample, and hence it is often called the cold light. For example, firefly, oscilloscope screen, TV screen, LED, fluorescent tube, all are the example of cold light sources. In ancient India, the existence of luminescence was incomplete without talking about the luminous cobra stone, and the discovery, the credit to discover this luminous stone goes to Professor H. Hansdorff. Now the definition, if we go to the definition, in 1888, Weidmann introduced this term luminescence, and he gave the first definition of this phenomena as luminescence is the excess emission over and above the thermal emission background. But this definition is not accurate definition because there are many other types of glow that are also the excess emission over and above the thermal emission background. So, so it did not distinguish luminescence from other types of glow. So in 1951, Vavilov added this definition by adding the criteria of duration. He said that, okay, luminescence is the excess emission over and above the thermal emission background if this emission has a duration which is considerably exceeding the period of light oscillation. So we can say luminescence actually is a general term for the emission of electromagnetic radiation from the substance during or following the absorption of energy from suitable sources such as ultraviolet, X-rays, or high energy particles. So it is distinguished from thermal radiation because it does not follow the Kirchhoff's law. And a time delay in emission of the order of 10 to the power minus 14 seconds, it distinguishes it from Raman and Compton effect, which are completed in a time of about 10 to the power minus 14 seconds or less. So luminescence process involves at least two steps: excitation of electronic system of the substance and the subsequent emission of photons. And these two steps may or may not be separated by intermediate process. Now, two of the most important aspects of luminescence are fluorescence, phosphorescence. On the basis of physical process taking place during fluorescence and phosphorescence, we can say that fluorescence is the emission that takes place by one or more spontaneous transition. And phosphorescence is the emission which occurs with the intervention of the metastable state followed by a return to the excited state due to addition of energy. So this energy may be supplied by optical radiation or heat. Then another way to differentiate these two phenomena is fluorescence is the luminescence emitted during excitation or within 10 to the power minus 8 seconds after the cessation of excitation. This interval 10 to the power minus 8 second is chosen as of the order of the lifetime of an atomic state for an allowed electric dipole transition or in the visible region of the spectrum, or this being the order of the relaxation time of an isolated gaseous ion. Then if the emission occurs after this interval of removing the excitation, then the luminescence may be called phosphorescence or afterglow. The delay period may be of the order of microseconds to hours. So the fluorescence is little dependent on the temperature, but phosphorescence is strongly temperature dependent. So this already I have explained the tree diagram. And we can categorize the luminescence in three different categories. One is the energy conversion type luminescence, where the exciting energy is directly converted into emission. For example, photoluminescence, that is produced by absorption of photons. Then radioluminescence, that is produced by bombardment of material with high energy particles. Third one is electroluminescence, produced by application of DC or AC electric field. And so chemiluminescence and bioluminescence. The second category involves stimulation or induction type luminescence. Here, first is thermoluminescence. Here, the exciting energy is not directly converted into emission, but it stimulates the emission. That's why it's called stimulation type. For example, thermoluminescence, actually it is thermally stimulated luminescence. So that is induced by thermal energy. Mechanoluminescence, crystalloluminescence, lyoluminescence, and so on. The third one is the luminescence where the concept is involved, like negative luminescence, amplified luminescence. If between some energy levels an inverse population arise owing to the luminescence excitation, then the successive luminescence emission and absorption may amplify the emission instead of being absorbed. This is the amplified. Then the cross luminescence and anti-Stokes luminescence, where the wavelength of emitted radiation is less than the wavelength of exciting radiation. This slide show the luminescence phenomena. You clear that first absorption is there, where the blue photon jump to the higher energy level. Then non-radiative relaxation is there, and then after the red one photon that is emitted. So that we can say that higher wavelength, lower wavelength light we are giving, and higher wavelength light we are getting. So that, or in terms of energy, we can say higher energy we are giving and lower energy photon we are getting. This is called the Stokes shift. But we can also obtain the higher energy by giving the lower energy photon. This is by upconversion phenomena, where this two photon ground state absorption and excited state absorption is there. And after that, the upconversion luminescence, where the energy of the emitted photon is greater than the energy of the exciting photon. This is also called the anti-Stokes luminescence we have discussed earlier. Now, a substance that exhibit the luminescence phenomena is called the phosphor. And phosphor is basically consisted of host material, activators, and co-activator. A general requirement for a potential phosphors are like strong absorption band. They should have broad excitation spectra. They should have high quantum efficiency and the homogeneous distribution of sensitizer and activator ions and so on. And the main host materials are like sulfides, oxide, aluminates, borates, silicates, etc. Then what is activator? We can say that in the below the diagram you have seen the activators and the sensitizer. Red one is the activator. We can say that efficient phosphor always contains a small amount of luminescence promoting impurities called activator. So this is the site actually where the electron radiatively relaxes. So in the crystal, in general, we got the emission from the phosphor by the activator side, from the activator side. So now what is the role of sensitizer? There is another blue one, that is sensitizer is there. The role of this sensitizer is that it absorbs the energy from the incident one, and then it transfers its energy to the activator, so that the emission of activator enhances by the transfer of energy from sensitizer. So this is the activators, and we can say co-activators are there. So the normal that transition metal ions, rare earth elements, and heavy metals, they can be used as activators and sensitizer. Now, one thing is how we design the phosphor. So there are different parameters, phosphor parameters, where the independent variables are there and the dependent variable. For example, independent variables, the purity of material, how pure we take the raw material. Then I am discussing the choice of host and choice of activator further. And independent variable, because if you choose the host lattice, then there is a dependent variable, because if you choose silicate material, then firing temperature dependent on that, because you have to fire at higher temperature if you want to make silicate. So that is the firing temperature, the size of being fired, activator concentration, method of preparation, they all are the dependent variable for the design of the phosphor. So first thing is the choice of the host. If we want to see that, we know that inorganic host always consists of one of several different cation and with one of several different anion. So this anion may be simple, or it may consist of group of atoms like borates, silicates, or phosphates. So it should be apparent here that both the cation and anion selection वो इस तरह होना चाहिए that it must be optically transparent. Why? Because we want the absorption excitation process to take place at the activator site. However, there are exceptions are there in those phosphors in which the absorption of energy occurs in the anion group. So that are called the self-activated phosphors. So we can say the cations which can be used are from the 1A, 2A, and 3B, 4B compounds like lithium, strontium, zinc, germanium, or are the example of the cation. And similarly, the anions are there. But the most important thing is that the host cation is limited to those ions which have the rare gas electron configuration or the closed electron shell, so that they are optically inactive. Now there are many phosphor, sulfide, phosphates, vanadates, tungstens. We can say that until the end of the 20th century, copper and cobalt doped zinc sulfide was most famous and widely used persistent phosphor. But in order to sustain the phosphorescence of traditional long phosphorescent phosphor, zinc sulfide, radioactive isotopes such as tritium and promethium are added in the phosphor. But its use has been restricted due to safety and environmental consideration. In 1996, discovery of aluminate-based phosphor marked the beginning of a renewed search for the better and we can say different and better persistent material. So initially this research was concentrated on alkaline earth material, aluminates, and it took a few years before other types of compounds like silicates came into view. So the rare earth ions doped alkaline earth silicates are an important class of phosphorescence materials because of their high quantum efficiency in visible region, long persistence of phosphorescence, good stability, color purity, and good chemical, thermal, and radiation resistance, and they do not involve any radioactive isotope. So now the second thing, the very important thing for preparation of high efficiency phosphor, the choice of activators. Here, the factor to be considered is the so-called ground state perturbation. As we know that the activator site is under the influence of vibronic coupling involving localized phonon modes. So this includes both the phonon creation and destruction, and also the time varying electric field of the lattice, so which produces vibrational perturbation at the activator size. So we have to minimize that vibronic coupling effect by proper choice of the activator. तो इसको करने के लिए हमको कैसा कैटायन यूज करना पड़ेगा? We have to choose the cation जिसका इलेक्ट्रॉनिक जो ग्राउंड स्टेट है, which has no uncoupled spins, no angular momentum, and in which the sum of all electron movements like J, capital J, is also zero, so that the perturbation by localized phonon modes of the host lattice is non-existent. This mandates the choice of activators with the 1s not ground state. There are no other choices. The other factor is, and here also we know it must be, first thing is that it must be optically active so that the emission come from the activator side. Second one is that possesses a large energy gap between emitting and ground state in its crystalline environment. Third one is it has the proper valence state, which is easily established in its crystalline environment. And fourth one is stabilize that valence state within the crystalline host. And the most important thing is the activator cation and the host cation, it need to be matched in size also, so as to obtain the maximum efficiency in the produced phosphor. Mismatch creates the strain in the lattice and limits the actual solubility of the activator in the host lattice. So these are the periodic table, the cations that can be used as activator centers are this, where the half-filled shells are. Okay, so that the emission is from activator side. And also here the lanthanum, cerium, the rare earth ions are also available here in the right side of the material. Okay, that is for light rare earth element, and the this. अब बात आती है ना, आफ्टर द इनकॉर्पोरेशन, सपोज हमने कोई डोपेंट इन्वॉल्व किया लेटिस में, तो वो उस होस्ट लेटिस में कहां पर जाएगा? फॉर एग्जांपल, आफ्टर द इनकॉर्पोरेशन, आप सपोज वी हैव टेकन dy3+ as the dopant in any host lattice like strontium aluminate silicate. I have taken this one for example. So now one question arises that dy occupy at which lattice site of the host lattice? यहाँ पर dy3 पॉजिटिव है, तो नेचुरली इसके पास 3 कैटायन है मौजूद जहां पर कि वो जा सकता है, दैट इज Sr2+, Al3+, and also Si4+ element. But the doping sites in the host materials are known to be determined by the host lattice component and the ionic radii of the dopants. That means हमने कहा ना साइज में मैच करना चाहिए. तो एक्टिवेटर को यदि हम यहाँ पर देखें तो जो डिस्पोजियम है, या हम यूरोपियम 3+ या 2+ का डालें, तो उनका जो आयनिक रेडियाई है, दैट इज फॉर डिस्पोजियम के केस में 0.91 एंगस्ट्रॉम है, इसका रेडियस स्ट्रोंशियम 2+ के रेडियस से मैच करता है, जो कि 1.18 एंगस्ट्रॉम है. देयरफॉर जब हम सपोज डोपिंग करेंगे तो वो किसको रिलीज करेगा? स्ट्रोंशियम को रिप्लेस करके सब्स्टिट्यूशनल साइट पे जाएगा. द dissimilar ionic radii of Al3+ and SiO4 compared to those of the dopant ensure that the incorporation does not occur in their sites. So it was also confirmed by the EPR spectra. Now the second thing, the creation of new electron and hole traps. जब हम कोई डोपिंग करते हैं तो उसकी वजह से इलेक्ट्रॉन और होल ट्रैप्स भी जनरेट होते हैं. कैसे? एक एग्जांपल लेके हम देखते हैं. सपोज वन डिस्पोजियम 3+ आयन सब्स्टिट्यूट द, बिकॉज हमने ये तो देख लिया कि डिस्पोजियम कहाँ जाएगा, किसको रिप्लेस करेगा? स्ट्रोंशियम 2+ को. तो यदि उसने स्ट्रोंशियम 2+ को हटाया, दैट मींस उसके ऊपर तो 2+ चार्ज था स्ट्रोंशियम के ऊपर, डिस्पोजियम 3+ चार्ज है, तो इसके मतलब डिस्पोजियम 1+ चार्ज एक्स्ट्रा रह गया डिस्पोजियम के पास. सो दिस DYSR एक सब्स्टिट्यूशनल डिफेक्ट जो जनरेट हो गया वो पॉजिटिव है और वो एक इलेक्ट्रॉन ट्रैप की तरह काम करेगा. एट द सेम टाइम एक जो स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की वैकेंसी भी एक क्रिएट होती है होस्ट लेटिस में ड्यू टू द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ चार्ज न्यूट्रलिटी. और ये जो स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की वैकेंसी जो क्रिएट होती है वो नेगेटिव होगी, तो वो होल ट्रैप का काम करेगी। अब एक क्यों होगी, यहाँ पर हम ये कहेंगे यदि हमको स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की वैकेंसी क्रिएट होगी तो वो कैसे होगी, जब दो डिस्पोजियम आयन दो स्ट्रोंशियम आयन को रिप्लेस करेंगे तो उसके पास दो रिप्लेस हुआ तो कितने हुए, दो पॉजिटिव चार्ज हो गए। दो पॉजिटिव चार्ज हैं तो ये एक्स्ट्रा है, तो उसकी वजह से दो क्योंकि हमारे पास स्ट्रोंशियम के पास दो चार्ज है इसलिए एक स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की वैकेंसी हो जाएगी। तो एक वैकेंसी स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की क्रिएट होगी दो डिस्पोजियम आयन के सब्स्टिट्यूट होने के बाद। अब क्योंकि एक स्ट्रोंशियम आयन की वैकेंसी क्रिएट हो गई है तो फिर न्यूट्रलिटी के लिए एक एक्स्ट्रा एक्सेस स्ट्रोंशियम आयन होगा जो कहाँ जाएगा, सब्स्टिट्यूशन साइड पे वो रिसाइड कर सकता है, या तो इंटरस्टिशियल ऑफ द लैटिस एज द इंटरस्टिशियल डिफेक्ट्स और इट डिफ्यूज ऑनटू द सरफेस ऑफ द क्रिस्टल। सो इस तरह से हम ये देखते हैं कि जब हम कोई इम्प्यूरिटी डोपिंग करते हैं तो एक तो वो एक्टिवेटर का काम कर रही है, साथ ही साथ हम यहाँ देख रहे हैं कि इम्प्यूरिटी की डोप की वजह से भी इलेक्ट्रॉन और होल ट्रैप्स जनरेट हो सकते हैं। ओके, नाउ वी come to the point, the role of sensitizer and energy transfer mechanism. We will further discuss it by taking an example. Actually we know that cation having a half filled shell और उनका जो वैलेंस स्टेट है वो स्ट्रॉन्ग एब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं करता लेकिन वो एमिशन ज्यादा कर सकता है। इट इज फॉर दिस रीजन दैट सम ऑथर इनको एक्टिवेटर्स भी कहते हैं, कुछ इसको सेंसिटाइजर भी कहते हैं। तो सेंसिटाइजर वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड दैट व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ द सेंसिटाइजर। It absorbs the energy from the incident light and it gives the energy, transfer its energy to the activator. So there are many ways by which the energy transfers takes place. Here we can see the first one where the resonant radiative transition, energy transfer. कैसे, यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि सेंसिटाइजर ने अपना एमिशन दिया और उस एमिशन की वजह से जो एक्टिवेटर है वो एब्जॉर्प्शन हो गया एक्टिवेटर में। दूसरा होता है नॉन रेडिएटिव, जहां पर आप देखेंगे कि दोनों का यदि एनर्जी लेवल मैच कर रहा है तो देयर इज अ नॉन रेडिएटिव ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम द एक्साइटेड स्टेट ऑफ सेंसिटाइजर टू द एक्साइटेड स्टेट ऑफ दिस एक्टिवेटर। थर्ड वन, बिकॉज यहाँ पर आप देखिए यहाँ पर क्योंकि लेवल मैच नहीं कर रहा है तो ये नॉन रेडिएटिव होगा ट्रांसफर ये भी, पर इसमें फोनॉन असिस्टेड फोनॉन आयन के बीच में क्रॉस रिलैक्सेशन मतलब कि हुआ है वो आपस में वो ट्रांसफर, उस तरह का ट्रांसफर होता है क्रॉस रिलैक्सेशन। तो इस तरह से जो सेंसिटाइजर है वो अपनी एनर्जी जो है किसको, एक्टिवेटर को ट्रांसफर करता है सो दैट द एक्टिवेटर एनर्जी इनहांसेस। Now there are about the synthesis route. अब क्योंकि हमने फॉस्फेट तय कर लिया है so there are very many methods. मैं बहुत क्विकली इसको समराइज करती हूँ। Solid state reaction method जो कि the simplest and the most ancient method also have high probability of forming the pure compounds. In solid state reaction method, the raw material used are generally metal oxide and the carbonates. Initially, all the raw materials are calculated, weighed by following the stoichiometric rule of chemistry. And in solid state reaction, you have heard that flux is also used. Now, what is the use of flux in this reaction? Flux actually enhance कर देता है reaction rate को, as the solid state reaction method requires high temperature ranging from 1100 to 1500 degree centigrade. And for getting better homogeneity during the process of grinding, some organic volatile liquids are also added like acetone, alcohol, distilled water. In the presence of these volatile liquids, the raw materials are mixed properly and then fired at required temperature. The second is the combustion synthesis. This synthesis is based on the principle of exothermic reaction. Here all the raw materials and fuel are calculated and weighed in a stoichiometric ratio and mixed in a agate mortar pestle until the mixture is converted into the thick paste, and this paste is placed in a preheated furnace, which is about 500 to 700 degrees centigrade. Now, another fast molecule called the intersystem crossing. Intersystem crossing जो है, it is 10 to the power minus 10 seconds से minus 8 second तक होता है. This is where the electron change spin multiplicity from an excited singlet state to a excited triplet state. So this is the slowest process in the Jablonski diagram, several orders of magnitude slower than fluorescence. This slow transition is a forbidden transition. That is, ये strictly banned है. यदि हम इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिलेक्शन रूल्स देखें तो वो उसको फॉलो नहीं करता. फॉरबिडन किसको कहते हैं? जो कि सिलेक्शन रूल, जो हमारे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिलेक्शन रूल है, उसको फॉलो ना करे, तो ये फॉरबिडन है. लेकिन ये कैसे होता है? दैट इज बाय coupling vibrational factors into the selection rules, the transition become weakly allowed and able to compete with the time scale of fluorescence. And the last one we can say, emission from the triplet state to singlet state is phosphorescence. It is very weak and slow process. Hence, electron can remain excited much longer, typically millisecond to second. So this is the mechanism of photoluminescence by Jablonski diagram. Now, we have already discussed this, that the fluorescence and phosphorescence are the radiative transitions, and internal conversion, intersystem crossing, and vibrational relaxation are non-radiative transitions. So there are एनर्जी प्रोसेस फॉस्फर में क्या क्या होता है, ये ऑलरेडी हम लोग डिस्कस कर लिए हैं ना, कि एब्जॉर्प्शन होता है, एक्साइटेशन होता है, देन रिलैक्सेशन होगा और आफ्टर में एमिशन हो जाता है. ये जो आप राइट साइड में फिगर देख रहे हैं, ये जो एक एक्टिवेटर का ग्राउंड स्टेट और एक्साइटेड स्टेट के बारे में हम यहाँ देख रहे हैं. ये इसको हम कॉन्फिगरेशनल कोऑर्डिनेट डायग्राम के नाम से भी जानते हैं. अब इसमें आप बहुत ध्यान से देखिए कि पहला तो कर्व जो है वो पैराबोला है. पैराबोला क्यों है? क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि जो एटॉमिक ग्रुप्स हैं वो सिंपल हार्मोनिक ऑसिलेटर की तरह बिहेव करते हैं, जहां पर फोर्स जो है वो डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल होता है डिस्प्लेसमेंट के, एंड द वर्क डन और एनर्जी इज प्रोपोर्शनल टू द स्क्वायर ऑफ द डिस्प्लेसमेंट. देयरफॉर दिस कर्व्स आर लाइक अ पैराबोला. दूसरी चीज हम यहाँ पे देखेंगे कि जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ट्रांजिशन है, आप यहाँ पर देखिए एक्साइटेशन एकदम स्ट्रेट ऊपर गया और उसके बाद वो रिलैक्स होके नीचे एमिशन. तो यहाँ जो डिफरेंस है वेवलेंथ में, एक्साइटेशन वेवलेंथ आप देखिए कम है क्योंकि एनर्जी ज्यादा है, और एमिशन वाला जो है वो एनर्जी कम है. ये क्यों होता है? बिकॉज ऑफ द कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ फ्रैंक कॉन्डोन प्रिंसिपल, अकॉर्डिंग टू विच द आयन डू नॉट चेंज देयर पोजीशन ड्यूरिंग एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ट्रांजिशन. और इन जनरल दोनों का जो एक्साइटेड स्टेट और ग्राउंड स्टेट का मिनिमा है ना, वो इट विल नॉट हैव द सेम कोऑर्डिनेट. जो नीचे आर लिखा है सेम जगह नहीं होता है, बिकॉज द डिफरेंट इंटरैक्शन इन द सेंटर विद इट्स सराउंडिंग इन ईच स्टेट. दोनों स्टेट में, एक्साइटेड स्टेट में या ग्राउंड स्टेट में, जो सराउंडिंग के साथ इंटरैक्शन है वो अलग होता है. अब यहाँ पर बात इसकी भी आती है, यदि हम डेंसिटी ऑफ स्टेट्स के बारे में देखें, क्या होता है यहाँ पर आप जानते हैं कि क्योंकि वाइब्रेशनल जो लैटिस है वो हमेशा वाइब्रेट करता रहता है, सो दैट जब भी आप ऊपर जाएंगे, वो ऊपर गया लेकिन उसके बाद फिर लैटिस ने वाइब्रेट किया, तो जैसे जैसे आप एब्जॉर्प्शन हो रहा है, जब हर बार जो फोटोन रिलीज होगा उसकी एनर्जी थोड़ी सी डिफरेंट होगी, स्लाइटली डिफरेंट होगी, सो दैट हमको ये बैंड के फॉर्म में मिलता है ना. एक जीरो फोनॉन लाइन में सीधा स्ट्रेट नहीं मिलता, बल्कि एक थोड़ा सा बैंड फॉर्म में मिलता है. वो बैंड फॉर्म का रीजन ये होता है क्योंकि हमारा जो लैटिस है वो हमेशा वाइब्रेट करते रह रहा है, और अलग अलग के लिए उसका क्राइटेरिया अलग अलग होता है. तो हमको जो डेंसिटी ऑफ एक्साइटेड स्टेट से देखिए राइट में आपको वो बैंड फॉर्म में मिलती है. इसी तरह एमिटेड जो एमिशन है वो भी हमको बैंड फॉर्म में मिल सकता है. बट इसमें एक चीज और यहाँ पर है कि कई बार आपने देखा होगा कि जैसे हम लोग यूरोपियम 3+ की इम्प्यूरिटी डोप करते हैं, तो यूरोपियम 2+ आपको बैंड स्ट्रक्चर देता है, बैंड टाइप का देता है, और जब यूरोपियम 3+ जो है वो एकदम शार्प लाइन एमिशन आता है. तो ये डिफरेंस क्यों होता है? क्योंकि नेचुरली जो एनवायरनमेंट के साथ यदि आप U2+ का देखें तो वो 5D से 4F में ट्रांजिशन है, तो उसका जो इंटरेक्शन है एनवायरनमेंट से वो ज्यादा होता है, इसलिए वो ब्रॉड होगा, क्योंकि उसमें ये फोनॉन वाला वाइब्रेशन कपलिंग जो है वो ऐड हो जाएगा। लेकिन जो U3+ है वो इनर ट्रांजिशन है, इनर शेल है, 4F से 4F में ट्रांजिशन है, सो वो एनवायरनमेंट के जो डिस्टरबेंस है उससे वो दूर रहता है, इसलिए वो शार्प होता है। तो ये रीजन है शार्प और ब्रॉड एमिशन होने का डिफरेंट आयंस में। Now this is the photoluminescence instrument and naturally instrument में हम बात करेंगे, इसमें 2 मोनोक्रोमेटर होते हैं और xenon लैंप इसमें सोर्स की तरह यूज किया जाता है, और फोटो मल्टीप्लायर ट्यूब जो है वो तो दोनों तरह से हम एक्साइटेशन स्पेक्ट्रा भी नोट कर पाते हैं इसमें, और एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा भी हम लोग नोट कर पाते हैं। नाउ दिस इज द फोटोल्यूमिनेसेंस रिजल्ट्स। ये है स्ट्रोंशियम एल्यूमिनोसिलिकेट फास्फर जिसमें डिस्पोजियम की डोपिंग की हुई है। सो लेफ्ट साइड यू कैन से दैट द 4 शार्प एक्साइटेशन पीक्स आर ऑब्जर्व्ड, जिसमें कि 351 नैनोमीटर की जो पीक है वो सबसे हाईएस्ट पीक है जो प्रीडोमिनेट कर रही है, फ्रॉम जो कि है ट्रांजिशन 6H15/2 से 6P7/2 उसकी एक्साइटेशन। तो ये डिस्पोजियम की एक्साइटेशन वेवलेंथ है। तो हम क्या करते हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे हाईएस्ट हमको 351 पे मिला, सो वी चूज 351 नैनोमीटर फॉर एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा एज एक्साइटेशन वेवलेंथ। 351 नैनोमीटर को हमने एक्साइटेशन वेवलेंथ चूज किया, और उसके बाद यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा, आप देख रहे हैं। सो एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा में the 2 characteristic peaks of dysprosium are here. One is at about 475 and second is about 575 or 585 nanometer. So this is the transition, different transition. One is from 4F9/2 to 6H15/2, and second one is the 4F9/2 to 6H13/2. These 2 transitions are there. Now what we are observing here, that when we increase the concentration of dysprosium, first initially the intensity of emission increases, and after that the intensity decreases. Now what is the reason behind this? As we know that the emission are from the activator side. तो जब शुरुआत में एक्टिवेटर्स का जब कंसंट्रेशन हम बढ़ाते हैं, तो क्योंकि एक्टिवेटर से ही तो हमको एमिशन मिल रहा है, तो जैसे जैसे एक्टिवेटर ज्यादा होते जाएंगे हमको एमिशन भी बढ़ता जाएगा। तो इनिशियली कंसंट्रेशन बढ़ाने से हमको इंटेंसिटी ज्यादा मिल रही है, उसके बाद एक पर्टिकुलर कंसंट्रेशन के बाद आप देखेंगे द इंटेंसिटी स्टार्ट्स डिक्रीजिंग। Now what is the reason of this decreasing? It is called the concentration quenching, because when more and more activators ions are present and their distance between activator ions decreases, so that there is a possibility of energy transfer between them. इसको हम ऐसे भी समझते हैं, देखिए यदि आप किसी कमरे में अकेले खड़े हैं तो आप अपने हाथ पैर चला सकते हैं पूरी एनर्जी के साथ। आप जैसे जैसे मान लीजिए और लोग आ रहे हैं, तो जब तक एक डिस्टेंस तक वो आपसे दूर है तब तक सब लोग अपनी एनर्जी पूरी तरह से यूज करेंगे, तो इंटेंसिटी बढ़ जाएगी। लेकिन जब आपका डिस्टेंस आप लोग पास पास में आ जाएंगे तो क्या होगा, हमारी एनर्जी दूसरे को धक्का देने में भी लगेगी। हम पूरी एनर्जी ऊपर नहीं दे सकते, हमको उनको धकेलने में हमारी एनर्जी को लॉस करना पड़ता है। सो दिस इज जस्ट एन एग्जांपल। इसको यदि हम कहें तो कंसंट्रेशन क्वेंचिंग जो फिनोमेना है, इट डोमिनेट्स इफ द एक्साइटेशन एनर्जी इज ट्रांसफर्ड between many ions in the time necessary for the radiative decay. This is called energy transfer here. In such a situation, the probability to reach a path of non-radiative decay is strongly enhanced. So since the energy transfer probability increase हो जाएगी जैसे ही डोपेंट का डिस्टेंस डिक्रीज हो जाएगा, तो इसका मतलब है कि डिस्टेंस जब हम डोपेंट कंसंट्रेशन एक पर्टिकुलर कंसंट्रेशन के बाद बढ़ाएंगे तो हमारे को इंटेंसिटी जो है वो कम हो जाएगी। दिस इज द फिनोमेना ऑफ कंसंट्रेशन क्वेंचिंग। Now we come to the point कि अब ये जो concentration quenching हुई है ये किसकी वजह से हुई है? So according to Dexter's energy transfer formula, log I upon x is equal to k prime minus theta by 3 log x। यहाँ पर हमने इसको log x और log I upon x के बीच में ग्राफ खींचा और उसके स्लोप से हमको थीटा की वैल्यू मिल गई, और थीटा जो है उसकी वैल्यू के हिसाब से डिसाइड होता है कि जो इंटरेक्शन हो रहा है वो वो किसकी वजह से हो रहा है, कंसंट्रेशन क्वेंचिंग जो हमको मिल रही है वो किसकी वजह से मिल रही है। तो यहाँ पर हमने देखा 3.39 और 3.48 वैल्यूज आ रही हैं, दैट मीन्स 3 के ये करीब हैं, इसलिए हम यहाँ कह सकते हैं कि जो कंसंट्रेशन क्वेंचिंग हो रही है वो एक्सचेंज इंटरेक्शन मैकेनिज्म की वजह से हो रही है। Now this is the emission and excitation spectra of cerium doping strontium aluminosilicate. Here also we have obtained the optimum intensities obtained for 0.5 mole % doping concentration, and here slope is -1.17. So actually Q नहीं है, वो theta जो है वो 3.51 है, जो कि 3 के पास है. So again this is because of exchange interaction mechanism. तो ये तो एक सिंगली डोप्ड की बात हुई, हमने सीरियम 3+ डोप किया और फिर हमने डिस्पोजियम. नाउ बात करते हैं कि जब हमको को डोपिंग करना है, यदि एक्टिवेटर और सेंसिटाइजर को बनाना, दिस इज वन थिंग मोर, दैट दिस इज अ CIE chromaticity coordinates. ये क्या करता है, दिस इज दे आर कैलकुलेटेड बेस्ड ऑन फोटोल्यूमिनेसेंस स्पेक्ट्रा, and this CIE XYZ color encompasses all color sensation that an average person can experience. So it is an objective specification of the quality of color, regardless of its luminance, and it is the most commonly used tool to describe color in spectroscopy today. तो यहाँ पर आप देखिए कि आप जितने पॉइंट्स आप देख रहे हैं डिस्पोजियम में, ये आपको ग्रीन येलो के पास दिख रहे हैं, और जब सीरियम डोपिंग है उसमें आप देखिए ये आपको अल्ट्रावायलेट और ब्लू के पास मिल रहा है. जितना भी एमिशन है, कलर हमको कहाँ मिल रहे हैं, इससे हम देख सकते हैं CIE क्रोमेटिसिटी से. अब बात कर रहे हैं, ये दोनों अलग अलग थे, हमने एक सिंगल डिस्पोजियम को डोप किया सपोज, और हमने एक सिंगल CE3+. अब बात करते हैं कि यदि हमको को डोपिंग करना है तो कैसे सेलेक्ट करेंगे कि कौन सा वे एनर्जी ट्रांसफर पॉसिबल होगा. उसके लिए बिफोर को डोपिंग ऑफ सेंसिटाइजर वी हैव टू चेक दैट सफिशिएंट ट्रांसफर ऑफ एनर्जी एग्जिस्ट बिटवीन देम और नॉट. दोनों में ट्रांसफर होगा कि नहीं एनर्जी, इसके लिए हमको एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा सेंसिटाइजर का देखना पड़ेगा. यदि वो एक्साइटेशन स्पेक्ट्रा ऑफ एक्टिवेटर से ओवरलैप करेगा तभी देयर विल बी पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ चार्ज ट्रांसफर बिटवीन देम. तो यहाँ हमने देखिए लेफ्ट साइड में डिस्पोजियम और सीरियम की कोडोपिंग है स्ट्रोंशियम एल्यूमिनोसिलिकेट फास्फर में, क्योंकि सीरियम जो है वो एक्टिवेटर की तरह काम कर रहा है. तो हमने इसमें देखो एमिशन स्पेक्ट्रा जो है सीरियम का वो एक्साइटेशन स्पेक्ट्रा ऑफ डिस्पोजियम से ओवरलैपिंग है, यहाँ स्पेक्ट्रल ओवरलैप मिल रहा है. इसी तरह राइट साइड में आप देखेंगे यदि हम सीरियम और TB का देखें, ये कैल्शियम स्ट्रोंशियम एल्यूमिनेट फास्फर के लिए है, तो इसमें भी यहाँ पर हमको स्पेक्ट्रल ओवरलैपिंग मिल रही है. तो यदि स्पेक्ट्रल ओवरलैपिंग मिलेगी तो हम समझ जाते हैं कि ओके ये हम कोडोपिंग करने से एनर्जी ट्रांसफर मिलेगा, तो हमको एक्टिवेटर का एमिशन एनहांस होगा. तो दिस इज द PL रिजल्ट. इसमें आप बहुत आराम से समझ पाएंगे कि कैसे एनर्जी ट्रांसफर होता है. यहाँ पर लेफ्ट साइड में आप देखिए ब्लैक वन जो है वो सिंगली डोप्ड सीरियम 3+ का है एमिशन, और रेड वन जो है वो है टर्बियम डोपिंग का. अब सपोज आपने जो टर्बियम डोपिंग है उसमें स्मॉल अमाउंट दैट इज 1 mole % ऑफ सीरियम डोप कर दिया टर्बियम डोपिंग में, तब आप देखिए क्या हो रहा है. यहाँ आप देखिए ये जो CE का ब्लैक वन था वो घट गया, मतलब CE का जो एमिशन है वो घट रहा है, और इधर TB का एमिशन ग्रीन देखो ये ग्रीन में बढ़ गया है. तो इसका मतलब क्या है कि सीरियम का एमिशन कम हो रहा है और टर्बियम का एमिशन बढ़ रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ दिस डोपिंग ऑफ सीरियम in terbium, so that it may we can say that CE3+ act as a sensitizer here. In the right one it is also true that when cerium की intensity कम होके डिस्पोजियम की intensity बढ़ रही है, that means CE3+ acted as sensitizer and TB3+ and DY3+ acted as activators. Now this is for PL emission spectra of strontium aluminosilicate for 5.005% CE. यहाँ पर भी आप ध्यान से देखेंगे कि यहाँ जैसे जैसे आप इंटेंसिटी डिस्पोजियम का कंसंट्रेशन बढ़ा रहे हैं 0.01 से 4 मोल तक के, तो सीरियम की इंटेंसिटी कम हो रही है लेफ्ट वाली 433 नैनोमीटर वाली, और 576 वाली जो इंटेंसिटी है वो बढ़ रही है. तो इसको यदि हम इस तरह से भी शो कर सकते हैं, दिस इज राइट वन इज द एनर्जी ट्रांसफर मैकेनिज्म. ये जो डिस्पोजियम का दिया हुआ है राइट वन, और ये जो सीरियम है इसने अपना एनर्जी ट्रांसफर कर दिया किसको, डिस्पोजियम को. नाउ ये जो एनर्जी ट्रांसफर हुआ है, वी कैन कैलकुलेट द एनर्जी ट्रांसफर एफिशिएंसी बाय यूजिंग द रिलेशन eta ET is equal to 1 - IS upon ISO. तो नेचुरली यहाँ पर आप देखिए कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ डिस्पोजियम जैसे जैसे बढ़ रहा है, आप देखिए जो एफिशिएंसी है वो यहाँ पर 0.04 पे 74.4% एनर्जी ट्रांसफर हमको मिल रहा है। एंड वी हैव आल्सो लर्न कि जो एनर्जी ट्रांसफर मैकेनिज्म है वो किसकी वजह से, उसको देखने के लिए डेक्स्टर ने एक थ्योरी दिया था, ISO अपॉन IS इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू C to the power n/3। तो यहाँ पर हमने जो ग्राफ खींचा है ISO अपॉन IS और C के बीच में, इसमें ये देखा जाता है कि जो कर्व है बेस्ट स्ट्रेट फिट काय में हो रहा है। हम ये जानते हैं n = 6 जो है वो डायपोल डायपोल के लिए होता है, 8 डायपोल क्वाड्रुपोल के, तो तीनों की वैल्यू रख के हमने ये ड्रॉ किया और इसमें हमको ये पता चला कि बेस्ट फिट जो है वो इधर हो रहा है, n = 6 के लिए ये बेस्ट फिट कर रहा है। इसका मतलब है कि जो एनर्जी ट्रांसफर हो रहा है वो बिकॉज ऑफ डायपोल डायपोल इंटरेक्शन की वजह से है। And this is the CI chromaticity coordinate diagram of our code of the sample। यहाँ भी आप देखेंगे जैसे जैसे पॉइंट आप देख रहे हैं A से लेके G तक F तक जा रहे हैं। यहाँ F में हम देखेंगे कि जैसे जैसे हम डिस्पोजियम की इंटेंसिटी बढ़ा रहे हैं, as we increase the concentration of dysprosium here, the point shifts towards the white region। ये जो बीच में है F वो white region है। तो जैसे जैसे हम, इसका मतलब यहाँ पर हम कलर ट्यूनेबिलिटी की बात भी करते हैं। कलर ट्यूनेबिलिटी मतलब हम कंसंट्रेशन चेंज करके कलर को ट्यून कर सकते हैं। दिस इज द फिनोमेना वी कैन एक्सप्लेन बाय दिस diagram। Now we come to the point, the future of luminescence। Naturally, we can say there are plenty of different new technology trends in the lighting industry has been emerged in the last few years, but the dynamic changes which are going to be a major part of our lighting industry that will change the trends of the future, they are, first is we can say Internet of Things। What is this? Internet of Things is a technology which will not only connect our smartphone and computer with the internet, but no, it will also connect our gadgets with lighting fixtures and much more। So lighting fixtures mean it is a technology which has enabled us to remotely regulate our lighting fixtures using our smart gadgets। This means now you can switch on and off light from anywhere with the help of inbuilt sensors and establish a connection with your smartphone। Second one is wireless technology। We know that today everything is going wireless and compact, so the lighting industry is also adopting the wireless trends, especially in retrofit projects, and even the traditional wired lighting systems are using the wireless technology where everything is controlled without any cable connectivity। Third one is the LED for all। So LED light bulbs are the new technology trends in the lighting industry which can't be avoided today। The LED lighting fixtures have numerous benefits from environmental health to our own health। We have 4 convincing reasons why LED lights are saving the earth। First, we can say it is made of non-toxic materials। Unlike the incandescents and other traditional bulb, LEDs are made of non-toxic materials। It is environment friendly because the absence of mercury, it makes it easier to use and to dispose of, and they do not contribute to the increase in temperature because they don't produce ultraviolet rays। Then second important thing is LEDs have a longer lifespan than traditional bulbs। LED light bulbs can last up to 20 times more than the standard form of lighting, which has a very positive effect। The fact that LED lasts longer, it means that fewer bulbs need to be produced, and मतलब कम हमको बल्ब लगेंगे ना, तो हमको ज्यादा रिप्लेस की करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। So the fewer lights are needed means that fewer resources will be required for manufacturing, packaging and transportation। So in this line, we get to minimize the waste product produced by our home or establishment। So even at the last second, we get the best value for our money without compromising the safety of the earth। Third one is we can say energy efficient lighting। The standard LED bulbs can be up to 80% more energy efficient than conventional bulbs and waste far less energy than other styles of lighting। So on average, we can save up to 90% of electricity costs with LED lighting, and it promotes productivity also। because it have different benefits for their user. They have the ability to promote productivity because the lights give you a cool relieving feeling compared to the incandescent. So this is why most occupational buildings switch to LED light to give the employees a sense of focus. Now the fourth one is connectivity. With the comprehensive use of the LED technology in the mainstream, the control, or we can say connectivity, has improved a lot. The dimmers and the sensors are part of the lighting industries for ages now, but with the advanced digital connectivity, this trend of controlling has become an utterly important part of the lighting industry. The fourth one is built-in light. Built-in light means the new lighting trends that has been surged by technology is built-in lighting. That means because LED light don't require frequent replacement. So manufacturers are fitted light inside the walls and ceiling to make them look as much as possible seamless. Now the fifth one is Li-Fi. So light is just not anymore the source to brighten up our home. It has become data technology such as Li-Fi. It is like a Wi-Fi technology where indoor LED luminaires are used to create a light communication system. It is set to transform our shop, museums, and indoor spaces into efficient places where data can be transformed using the available lighting sources. Apart from these trends, there are plenty of numerous lighting trends available and many more are coming. So overall lighting industry is a gold mine for new changes. Now, the second one is luminescence in the smart agriculture. Now we saw why this artificial light for plants, unpredictable changes in the natural lighting condition, insufficient daylight during the winter season, climate change phenomena, and necessary for vertical farming and controlled temperature. Therefore, artificial lights are very important in the today's scenario. We can say though, so luminescence is very much used in smart agriculture and it has the bright future. We can say that it has a role in plant growth because red light help in photochrome reversibility, essential for the growth of stems and expansion of leaves. Blue light affects chlorophyll contents, photosynthesis process. Infrared light, a small amount of infrared is needed for photochrome, photoequilibrium to flower. Ultraviolet, small amount of near UV light can enhance antioxidant activity of plants extracts, but no significant effects on growth process. Again, we can say in the present scenario, the effect of COVID is everywhere. So scientists are working on the use of UV radiation to disinfect contaminated public spaces to stop the transmission of the virus. So UV light is very much, we can say the ultraviolet C light is completely absorbed. And this germicidal UVC lamps are often used to purify air and water because of their ability to kill bacteria. So the conclusions, I think I have already discussed all of these. So we can say that all cerium 3+ doped SASO emit light in deep blue range, and by doping of this, it may be possible to achieve white light. So overall, we can say the future of luminescence is very bright because जो पूरा lighting industry है वो आगे जाके आप देखिएगा कि LED में पूरा convert हो जाएगा. So now here we stop my talk. Thanks for your patience. But यहाँ पे मैं आपको एक ये रेफरेंस बुक्स जरूर शेयर करना चाहूंगी बिकॉज जितने भी जो रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स हैं दीज आर द बेसिक बुक्स ऑफ ल्यूमिनेसेंस. यदि आप ल्यूमिनेसेंस में रिसर्च कर रहे हैं तो ये बुक्स आपको जरूर पढ़ना चाहिए, जो कि आरसी रूप की बुक है, विज की बुक है, और जो सबसा जिसको कहा जाता है दैट इज लाइट ल्यूमिनेसेंस मटेरियल बाय जी ब्लेसे. तो जो ब्लेसे की बुक है वो बहुत बेसिक कंसेप्चुअल बुक्स है. ये सारी बुक्स आपको जरूर तैयारी करना चाहिए यदि आप ल्यूमिनेसेंस फील्ड में आ रहे हैं. तो जो मैंने आज का जो लेक्चर तैयार किया है उसमें यही सब बुक्स को थोड़ा यूज किया है. सो थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was indeed a fantastic session. And if you allow, ma'am, can we have a few questions from the side of audience?
Yes.
So, with the permission of ma'am, here the first question is from Mr. Hariom Pawar, And he wants to ask in XRD pattern, what is the impact of doping element of certain ions? Is there any change in crystallite size? This is his question. I would request Hariom to, if he can, kindly type the question, retype the question, please.
एक्चुअली क्या होता है, वैसे तो क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर में यदि हम डोपिंग करेंगे तो क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर में चेंज आता है, ये जरूरी नहीं है, बट इसमें जो 2 थीटा पोजीशन है वो थोड़ा शिफ्ट हो जाता है बिकॉज ऑफ द दैट स्ट्रेस प्रोड्यूस। यदि मान लीजिए आपने जो डोपिंग की है, सपोज उसका साइज थोड़ा डिस्टर्ब है, थोड़ा बड़ा है या थोड़ा छोटा है, तो उस जैसे टेंसाइल स्ट्रेस यदि क्रिएट होगा तो वो डी स्पेसिंग को बढ़ा देगा, तो शिफ्टिंग ऑफ पीक लोअर 2 थीटा की तरफ चली जाती है। और यदि हम बात करें कंप्रेशन स्ट्रेस होगा तो वो डिक्रीज कर देता है डी स्पेसिंग को, तो वो हायर 2 थीटा वैल्यू की तरफ पीक शिफ्ट हो जाती है। तो ये थोड़ी स्लाइट हमको पीक मिल सकती है बिकॉज ऑफ यदि साइज थोड़ा सा मिसमैच होता है तो, अदरवाइज क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर में चेंज नहीं।
Thank you so much, ma'am. And next question is from the side of Mr. Akshay. He wants to ask that in CCT of prepared nanophosphor lies in the range of 6,000 to 8,000 K. What will this type of phosphor have many practical applications?
Yes, because जो greater than 500 है ना, वो cold appearance देता है ना, वो जैसे वो टिंगे ऑफ ब्लू कलर होता है ना, वो देता है। तो इसको हम यूज करते हैं प्रैक्टिकल एप्लीकेशन में, जब इंडस्ट्रियल प्लांट्स हैं या म्यूजियम है या ज्वेलरी शॉप है, इसमें आप इनका यूज कर सकते हो, क्योंकि ये डे लाइट जैसा आपको दिखेगा जहां पर सीसीटी ग्रेटर देन 5000 होगा।
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. And one more question, if you allow. It is from the side of Mr. Lochan Kumar. And the question is, why doping does not affect the host crystal structure? How can we decide it?
Yes, because हमने डोपिंग से हमने यही कहा कि जो हम डोपिंग डिसाइड करते हैं वो साइज पे डिपेंड करता है। यदि हमने साइज प्रॉपर लिया है, जो कैटायन होस्ट के कैटायन का साइज है उसके साइज से यदि मैच करता हुआ हम डालेंगे तो हमारा क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर जो है वो बिगड़ेगा नहीं, जो क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर है वो वही रहेगा। पर डिपेंड करता है कि डोपिंग का कंसंट्रेशन, यदि आप डोपिंग कंसंट्रेशन एक मैक्सिमम के बाद बढ़ा देंगे तो नेचुरली वो क्रिस्टल का स्ट्रक्चर को चेंज कर।
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, Swati ma'am, for forwarding all these questions. And thank you, Professor Namita ma'am, for such wonderful answers. And before we move on to the next session, I would again say that the feedback link would be provided very soon in the chat box. And all the participants are requested to kindly fill the feedback form for their e-certificates. And it was definitely fantastic. It was very nice to be the part of this fantastic webinar, but we are helpless before time. So we are moving ahead for the vote of thanks. And for this responsible task, I would humbly request Professor Ranveer Kumar Sir, Head Department of Physics, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya Sagar. Over to Professor Ranveer Kumar Sir.
Thank you, Sherry. Is my voice visible, audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the validity session of the national webinar on the luminescence and its future. First of all, on the behalf of the Department of Physics, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur University, I am very grateful to the Honorable Vice Chancellor Madam, Professor J.D. Ahi, for the sparing the precious time for the presidential address, for continuous support, for inspiring mentorship and advice, which have greatly helped towards the successful organizing this webinar on the luminescence and its future. I sincerely thank our eminent speaker, guest speaker, Professor Namita Brahme Madam from School of Studies in Physics and Astrophysics, Pandit Raipur, for kindly accepting our invitation and gracing the webinar by her valuable lecture. Madam, your lecture was very innovative on the luminescence and its future. When you focus on that one, you have delivered the lecture on the basics of the luminescence emulations, thermoluminescence, and all the things. And what I feel is that you have, in a very short duration, you have given a very long lecture on this one. I think the students can understand that one. Mostly, what important thing is the preparation technique, what you're following in this. The preparation technique you have mentioned about the solid phase reaction method, and that is very important. That when we make we take any cation, any composition we take, the cation and anion ratio, that is very important for telling any new material. And if you take, for example, aluminum silicate, and you have taken the aluminum silicate, in that we have that, if you synthesize that one, then we have that, if you make by that reaction, we should get the complete solid solubility, complete solid solution. Because silicate, aluminum and oxygen, they make the non-bridging oxygen or bridging oxygen. And the cation, if it is smaller, that ratio is important. So if you go for smaller ratio, the higher ratio of that one, that will make this, that will define the crystal structure. And second thing, important thing is the thermal history of the material is very important. How you synthesize the material, that will give the clear picture of your material. And madam, we have given all the details about the structural characterization of PL and X-ray. And I think the student will be benefited by that one. And thank you, madam. And I hope at the Raipur, all the staff members and other faculty staffs, they are the healthy and the safe during this COVID period. And my thanks goes to Professor Ashish Verma, the Dean School of Physical Sciences, Physical and Mathematical Sciences, taking the initiative for hosting the webinar on the luminescence in its future. I take this opportunity to thank all the staff members, Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Rekha Gar, Solanki, Dr. Prashant, Anupama, and Kikide, and other staff for their valuable suggestion and support throughout. It has been our pleasure to host all the participants of this webinar in the Department of Physics, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur, University Sagar. The participants were very enthusiastic. I am thankful to all the participants for attending this webinar, and we have been fortunate to the eminent persons from various academia working in the area of illumination material. And I'm sure that the participants must have benefited by attending this webinar. And in our university, we have all the facilities, experimental facilities, like XRD, powder XRD, single crystal, SAM-TEM. If any faculty or any academia working in this field wants to do research or carry out the research, they can get cooperation with us or other. In the Raipur also, they can tag with that collaborative work and they can start their new work. And I especially thank Professor Nilesh Jain from Sagar Institute of Bhopal for technical management and the support for this webinar. My thanks goes to all the research scholars of the department and the webinar team committee, Mr. Praveen Litoria, Swati Kurdi, especially for anchoring this webinar, who have given their precious time and hard work for organizing it. Lastly, before I conclude, I once again thank everyone who contributed in this webinar and make a success for this webinar. Thank you. Over to Sherry.
Thank you so much, sir, for this humble vote of thanks. Now it's the time to say, sorry ma'am. Yes ma'am.
मैं एक चीज और कहना चाहूंगी. Actually, मुझे मेरी जो रिसर्च स्कॉलर है, जो आज का प्रेजेंटेशन है, वो मैं उसको मिस कर दिया मैंने, वो क्योंकि एक्नॉलेजमेंट जो है वो मेरे स्टूडेंट तृप्ति रिचारिया के लिए है, क्योंकि अभी सर ने कहा तो मुझे याद आया कि पूरा जो मेन मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन का वर्क है, जो एक्सपेरिमेंटल वर्क है, वो तृप्ति रिचारिया ने तैयार किया है, जो कि SRF है हमारे यहाँ पे, और बहुत ही ब्रिलियंट स्टूडेंट है. तो मैं उनको भी थैंक्स कहना चाहूंगी यहाँ पे. कि उसने ये प्रेजेंटेशन तैयार करवाने में मुझे हेल्प किया. थैंक यू तृप्ति, यदि आप हो यहाँ तो.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And now this is the time to say bye-bye. But before that, I would like to say that kindly, please, all the participants are requested to fill the feedback form that has been provided in the chat section. Once again, a big thanks to all of you. Now, I, Sherry Nasser, want your leave with a promise that very soon we'll be back with another webinar. And bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor, ma'am. Thank you, Namita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.